Okay, so this video is a little late because I wasn't one of the content creators that got invited out to Bungie, but regardless of it being late, I wanted to make it anyways. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about the Pale Heart weapons in Destiny 2 The Final Shape, ranking them from best to worst, going over how you can get your hands on them, and of course talking about what their best perks are for PVE. If you're a new player, if you're a returning player, I hope that this video can help you figure out which one of these weapons that you want to craft for yourself and use going forward. With that said, make sure to subscribe if you enjoy the content today so you see more videos from me in the future, and let's just go ahead and jump into it. Starting off with how to get the Pale Heart weapons. Over the course of the Final Shape campaign, you'll find yourself getting a few of the weapons here and there, but if you'd like to guarantee have them all, and at least one deep side of each at that, make sure to grab the quest from Micah's conduit at the back of the tower. Micah has a quest for each and every one of the Pale Heart weapons to give you a deep sight version of it, which will also allow you to go to the ghost vendor once you have them unlocked in the tower, and then you can claim them via the engrams themselves, or by turning in the engrams and focusing a specific weapon that you want. As usual, you can get these engrams through leveling up your vendor. I found a lot of these engrams just through opening chests on the destination, so you should have plenty of these just the more that you play. That's basically how you get these weapons to begin with, so with all that said, let's go ahead and jump into these weapons one by one, starting with which one I think is the best. The Call. Now, this is a strand sidearm that is a rocket-assisted frame, which basically means that it is a special ammo sidearm that shoots literal rockets from it. Now, if you played last season and maybe you had the dungeon key for Warlord's Ruin, you might be familiar with the rocket sidearm from that dungeon, and you might remember that it got really popular in the latter half of the season, and that's because these weapons are just insanely good, and the Call is no different. This one, however, is going to be slotted in your kinetic slot instead of your energy, and it comes with fantastic perks just like the one from Warlord's Ruin. With the first column, one of the most important perks that it has is lead from gold. Me personally, when I'm running a rocket assisted frame, I tend to run double special, and lead from gold basically means that I'm always going to have ammo for my sidearm. We also have beacon rounds. This is going to allow your projectiles to track to enemies. It's not something that I'm necessarily big on, but I know that some people like this perk on these weapons, so I figured that I would mention it. And then of course we have demolitionist. This is going to allow you to reload your weapon when you use your grenade, and also give you a ton of grenade energy on kill. Now for the second column, there's only two perks that I would really recommend here. The first of which is Vorpal. These rocket sidearms are fantastic against major enemies, orange bars, yellow bars, whatever. It's going to do a lot of damage to them, and Vorpal is just going to help you with that by giving you a 15% damage bonus to these enemies. But you can also go with One for All here. Because this is a rocket sidearm, sometimes you can hit multiple enemies whenever you shoot one shot, and One for All is going to give you a 35% damage bonus for 10 seconds just for hitting 3 enemies, which you might be able to do in only one usage of your ammo. All in all, the Call is an absolute must-have because it extends the rocket sidearm family to your kinetic slot, and every person that owns Final Shape should probably get this weapon crafted. No Hesitation. Now this is a solar 600 RPM auto rifle, but not just any auto rifle. It's actually a brand new frame called the Support Frame. It says flexible and agile frame capable of healing allies and hurting foes. Harming targets builds a restorative charge, and hip firing at allies while this weapon is charged will heal them, and with rapid healing increases weapon damage and bestowing restoration to your allies. So basically, you are encouraged to heal your friends because the more often that you are healing your friends, the more often you are getting a damage buff in return. Now with this weapon, you can go with a full-on medic build by using two specific perks. The first column we have Physic, which says that rapidly healing allies will grant restoration to you and your allies, and then the second perk is called Circle of Life, which says that rapidly healing allies grants this weapon a period of increased damage. So if you are intending to use this auto rifle to heal your friends quite often, Circle of Life is going to be a fantastic perk for you to pair with Physic, but if you don't play with other fireteam members that often, you might want to ignore this role. Now if that is the case, we also have Subsistence in the first column, as well as Demolitionist and Overflow if that's your thing. Me personally, I think Subsistence or Demo are definitely two perks that you want to go with here, with the second column having Incandescent as well as Frenzy. My personal role on this auto rifle is Demolitionist and Frenzy, and it is absolutely insane. Even if you are not using this auto rifle to heal your friends, it's honestly one of the best auto rifles in the game, and it being a 600 RPM is very good because I don't really like these slower firing ones personally. So if you've been wanting to do like a solar build, of course you can go with Incandescent and subsistence, maybe demolitionist. If you want to do a healing build, physic and circle of life is going to be your friend. And if you just want some general damage, you can always go with frenzy in the last column as well. But all in all, this weapon is fantastic, and just like the call, is definitely a must-have. Axial LACUNA. Now, this is a solar fusion rifle that is kind of in between what you would expect with the fusion rifle meta. Of course, you have the rapid fire frames, which are perfect for quick DPS, and you have the high impact frames, which are good for long-term damage, right? Well, this is a precision frame, meaning that I would honestly use this one more for general use, but it can be really good in activities that do have solar surges. But there's not really too much to say about this fusion rifle, other than it is exactly what you would expect from a good fusion rifle. It has reconstruction in the first column, which is going to double your magazine capacity. It's also going to slowly overfill it as time goes on when you have it stowed. And then of course in the second column we have controlled burst, and this is going to increase your damage by 20% and decrease your charge time by 10% as long as you're hitting every shot in your burst. This is really all you need. You also do have surrounded in that second column, which can be really good, especially if you get this weapon and you have it crafted and you enhance surrounded. Of course, surrounded is a little bit more of a niche perk. You're not always going to have it procced, but surrounded is definitely one that you should keep your eyes on for certain areas of the game where you are going to be surrounded by a lot of enemies while you're DPSing a boss. So the general role, reconstruction, controlled burst, but definitely do keep an eye out for surrounded. Bold endings. Now, this is a hand cannon that comes to us in the heavy burst family, which if you didn't know, it fires a hard-hitting 2-round burst and slightly reduces flinching from incoming fire while aiming. Now, we did get this in the form of the Warden's Law in a GM or just Nightfalls in general not too long ago, and it's very good for Lucky Pants. This one, however, is stasis, so it is, brings a little bit something special to the table, but in general, it does have some really cool perks, but they don't really work in the way that you would think. I've seen a lot of people actually craft a roll of Headstone and Dragonfly, and unfortunately these perks do not mesh well together at all. Dragonfly is not going to destroy the Headstone that you create with a headshot, and if anything, it's going to kill the enemies around the Headstone that you create before you can shoot it and explode it. So it's not really a good perk combination from what I've seen of other people using it online. So for me personally, I would probably go with Headstone in the first column. That is going to be like your main damage perk, and in the second column, maybe pair that with Demolitionist. That way you get a ton of grenade energy while exploding the Headstone and killing a bunch of enemies nearby. Of course, you could do Rapid Hit in the first column, and we do have something like Desperate Measures if you want to ramp up your damage buffs. But this weapon right here, it's kind of all over the place. It could be a fun pickup for you if you are a fan of the heavy burst style of hand cannons, but it's nothing that's really going to shake up the meta in a big way. Just kind of a fun gun that you can mess around with, and for me, I'm probably going to craft Demo and Headstone. Pro Memoria. Now, to my knowledge, this is a first-of-a-kind machine gun coming in at a 600 RPM as the aggressive frame. And I gotta say, this weapon does feel really good. I do like machine guns at a 600 RPM. I really like the way that this machine gun feels, and it has a ton of really good perks if you were looking to get a good strand one. So in the first column, we have Envious Assassin to build up your magazine as you get kills with other weapons. We have Demolitionist, of course, for those fast reloads by throwing a grenade and getting your grenade back. And of course, my personal favorite, which would be Reconstruction, which will slowly autofill your magazine and load it in the background. With the second column, in terms of damage perks, we have Frenzy as well as Desperate Measures. I wouldn't necessarily recommend anything like Bait and Switch or Target Lock, not really my thing. Frenzy and Desperate Measures do seem pretty good here. Again, this kind of like Bold Endings, I don't really anticipate this to shake up the meta in some big way and be some massive change up from what we already see, but it does seem like a pretty fun machine gun that I might end up crafting to use in Strand Surge activities. I did like the one from Neomuna, but I gotta be honest, I like this machine gun having 600 RPM more, so I will probably end up crafting it and probably going the route of Reconstruction as well as Desperate Measures. Embraced Identity. Now, this is an adaptive frame sniper rifle, which does come with some pretty insane perks, although I do gotta say, I kind of wish it was a rapid fire frame instead. So taking a look at the perks, we have rewind rounds as well as reconstruction in the first column. Immediately, that got me really excited because it kind of reminded me of the Supremacy. And in the second column, we have fourth times the charm if you would like to do some silly things like just shooting non-stop. We also have high ground, which is a decent perk. Like, I think you can get up to 25% damage if you are above your enemy, but it's kind of a weird and niche one that you're not always going to be able to use. And of course, the main perk that I'd recommend here is Precision Instrument, which means that you will be getting more damage the more sustained damage that you do to your target via precision shot. So rewind rounds and Precision Instrument is probably the role that I am going to end up going for, but I am still really sad that this isn't a rapid fire frame because I absolutely love the Supremacy, and if it was a rapid fire, I honestly would probably craft this ASAP because Supremacy has just been a really fun weapon for me to use lately. False Idols. Now, this is a Vortex frame solar sword, and it doesn't necessarily bring anything to the table that I'm personally excited about. I haven't really been big on swords in a while. I know that Bungie is trying to push swords pretty heavily with the artifact we have this season, but I'm sure that is mainly due to the new exotic sword that we have. Regardless, this weapon does come with Wellspring in the first column, I guess, maybe Unrelenting so you can stay alive if you're trying to add clear. It does have Incandescent as well, so you can kill a ton of enemies if they're around. You could pair that with Chain Reaction if you wanted to. We do have Surrounded, which will give us a decent amount of damage, but yeah, this sword, I don't know, it's not something that I really see myself using or really anyone else using. Surrounded might make it pretty decent in some scenarios, maybe like the Crota's in Raid, but I'm sure that people are just going to keep using the DSC sword. So honestly, False Idols is mostly a weapon that you can ignore. And finally, we have Someday. Now, this is a precision frame kinetic shotgun, and yeah, I mean, whenever it comes to pellet shotties, you're not really going to get too much use out of them in PvE unless they come with 1-2 punch, and unfortunately, this one does not come with 1-2 punch. What it does come with, however, it comes with Threat Detector and Lead from Gold in the first column, to which you can pair with a Vorpal weapon or maybe recombination. I was using Swashbuckler in the gameplay that you see in the background by using a melee build, and then once I get those 5 stacks, using that on a heavier target. But yeah, this shotgun, kind of like the sword before it, I don't think really anyone in the PvE space is going to be using this, and it's not really going to make much of a splash at all. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, those are my opinions and my thoughts on the Pale Heart weapons, as well as how you can get your hands on them. I do gotta say that Bungie came out with a pretty decent weapon set here. I'm a big fan of the machine gun, the fusion rifle's okay, and the auto rifle and the sidearm are just absolutely fantastic. So we do have some really good picks here for PvE, and I'm really glad about that because it feels like a lot of the time these destination weapons just don't make too big of a splash. But Bungie did fix that for the final shape, so I'm glad that we do have some weapons that definitely have some staying power in the meta. But guys, let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below of this weapon set. That'll do it for me. I am going to be day 1 raiding tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to get my hands on a lot of the raid weapons, and I can come out with a video on that weapon set very soon. But anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.